I work my way to the top, ayy. I cannot fit in the middle, ayy. I cannot fit in the middle, ayy. I cannot fit in the middle. I work my way to the top, ayy.
What's going on, everybody? I am going to attempt to prove to you in this video that friendship is better than dating. When I say that friendship is better than dating, I'm not saying that it's an either or thing, but what ends up happening, at least in my personal experience and the experiences of a lot of people that I've talked to, whether they be married or whether they be single or whether they be people who are in relationships, is the common thread that I found is most people are not taking the time out to get to know people. I think in intentional ways that are healthy for good dating and relationships. So a lot of us, what we do is we look for the vanity things, the things that are vain, things that won't last, things that aren't sustainable, such as looks, attire, just the visual, tangible things. We look at the outward appearance and we put such a heavy premium on how somebody looks, just things that are attractive to us, and most of the times more attractive to the natural man or the natural woman that you are. So we look at those external features and we put so much stock in those things that we overlook personality, we overlook compatibility, we overlook a whole bunch of things. You know, there were girls that I was interested in during my single days, but I put a huge premium on, I want to be friends with people. And I'm not just saying just being friends with a whole bunch of girls, because we know that has a negative stigma too. But what I really put a premium on was being friends with girls with no strings attached. I didn't have to have an ulterior motive of being with them. I didn't have to be in a relationship with them, or I didn't have to do so as a way to get into it. I just truly valued friendship and wanted to get to know people, if that makes sense. I just wanted to get to know people. We're going to talk about the 4 levels of friendship that were very healthy and helpful. And this article has been around for I don't know how long, but this is something that was given to me from my pastor that I thought was really helpful that I wanted to share with you guys. So we're going to get right into it, and you can find this online as well. And it comes from the Institute in Basic Life Principles, and it basically talks about and breaks down these 4 levels of friendship. And I think within these 4 levels of friendship, many of us get this wrong. Many of us think that we date to become friends, or we get in a relationship to become friends with a person. But in reality, you become friends with a person to find out if that person is somebody you even want in your life, period. If that's somebody that you would even interact with. I would say prior to marriage, most of the girls that I dated, I didn't date them solely off the fact that they were a good friend to me. Like, they weren't just a great friend. Usually what happened was that person looked the part. They had certain vain things that I was interested in still at that time. And it was kind of like a clout chase in a sense. Like, I would date a person because I felt like they looked the part. And sure, I was interested in being the friend, but really I wanted to pursue you in terms of a relationship. Then we could talk about all that friendly stuff later. We can get to know each other once everybody knows that you the person that I'm talking to, you the person that I'm in a relationship with, because that was going to make me look good. But one of the things I didn't understand was this levels of friendship. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So the first thing within it that I think is really fire. So it breaks down this concept of friendship. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'll post this link to this I'll post it in the description so you can go back and check it out. But you can also look it up. Just type in 4 levels of friendship. And it starts off breaking down this first level, which is acquaintance. And so it says many people lack a clear understanding of the levels of friendship, which involve specific freedoms and responsibilities depending on the closeness of the relationship. And these are the 4. So acquaintance, it goes on basically to say we should regard every introduction to a new acquaintance as a divine appointment. Basically, an occasional contact is what this is. So when you have an acquaintance, this is somebody that you're just coming into contact with. You're just getting to know. You may have met them in class, or if you're in the workplace, it may be a coworker, or if it's church, for example, this may be somebody that you see at church that you say hey to, that you sit nearby or have a Bible class with, or something like that. So this is a person that you may have just met. And here's the thing. All you're doing in this case is just basic information. You just want to know their name and be able to greet them in a very cordial manner. And, just be, these are the type of acquaintances are the people that you ask general things with, like, oh, did you watch, did you see this on the news? Or, man, it's cold outside, those typical things, or where do you work, or where are you from, or, what area do you live in? Stuff. I don't know if you ask that, but basically you ask basic questions. What school do you go to? If they're in college or if they're in high school, whoever you are talking to. But these basic questions will at the very least show there's a level of interest. And I'm not talking about interest like dating. This is general interest in a person. These are basic things that we need to do. And another reason why I think this is dope is because, one of the positives from the movie Soul was the Disney movie Soul was that a lot of people don't really take the time to ask people questions to get to know them. They just go to people for specific things and say hey and bye, hi and bye. They get transactional services from them and they move on. But one of the things that really stuck out to me, and I'm not going to spoil it, is there was one scene where the guy in there was like, I didn't know you had so many interests, or I didn't know there was so much to you. He was like, well, you never asked me anything about me. But he was very happy to have been asked these questions about, interests that he has. And most of us miss that when it comes to friendships. And yeah, sometimes we do this when we talking on the phone, flirting and stuff. We ask these basic things, but understanding it starts out as an acquaintance. This is where you get to do these things. A lot of people, they start to flirting, they get in the middle of flirting and all that stuff. They're already skipping way ahead to another level of friendship, which is around that third or fourth level we're going to talk about. And they're already talking about other things that are much more deeper. But this is just general, so you want to keep it general, all right? So now level 2 is casual friendship, all right? Casual friendships. And this one says a casual friendship can develop quickly, even during your initial concept. So you can go from acquaintance to casual friendship like immediately usually after doing those questions, asking a person more information about them. What ends up happening is you start to discover some similarities. You start to realize that you have some common interests. There's some activities you may like, or maybe a TV show you both enjoy. There may be a sport a team that you both root for. And immediately you start to build up these commonalities, and these commonalities drive a lot of the early aspects of this friendship. And so now you are more of a casual friend, because now you're not just answering questions, but now you're getting into opinionated things. So it goes on to say, you may be given freedom to ask more personal questions. You could ask questions about goals, wishes, or opinions. And as it develops, here is an important factor that it says: discover strengths and praise them. You want to praise them for the positive character traits that you observe. And here is another part that I love. A good friendship will build godly character in both your lives. You want to see fruit out of it. You want to see godly character birthed out of it and built. I hope that is this making sense? I hope this is fruitful, because I think a lot of times we miss out on the part of bearing fruit as Christians, and our relationships should build godly character both in that interaction. Godly character should come from those interactions. So you want to be honest about yourself and even acknowledge your own weaknesses. You want to have some level of transparency in the midst of all of this too. Okay. And then here's the other part: being a trustworthy friend. You want to be someone that's trustworthy. This is your opportunity. We call this in dating. A lot of times we call this early stage when before you start dating a person, but you're just talking to them, maybe getting to know them. I call that the honeymoon phase, because if you're a serial killer, you're not going to tell somebody you're a serial killer. If you have some serious flaws or toxic behaviors, like, you're not going to tell a person that from the jump. So this is your opportunity to get off on a good note. And I'm not saying be phony. You want to be as genuine as you are. So some things will slip through the crack, but you want to be trustworthy. So you want to learn about a person's hopes and goals in life. I don't know why this is all post he is. Like, why is a woman the only one expected to do these things? I don't like the wording of that, but anyway, we can look past that. Information is good. Learn about his hopes and goals in life. Show interest and sincere concern if that person shares problems with you. Pray for them. So really at this point, you're just trying to give them some level of sincerity. You want to be a sincere friend. All right. The Bible says that there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And so through friendship, you can start to develop. And like I said, these first two levels of friendship work with anybody. You can apply this outside of dating, but we're in the context of dating. This is an opportunity for you to build up a level of trust with that person. You're starting to show some characteristics, showing interest that you have. You're expressing yourself a little bit more. You're opening up doors. And from a standpoint of men, if you're a man, so this one's for the men, make sure you ask, though. Don't negate asking those questions, getting to know their thoughts. Ask questions. Let women have the floor. But then once you get the floor, don't just try to flip it. Make sure you show that you're willing to open as well. But there's only levels. There's certain levels that you're going to open with in this case. So you don't want to open up too much, but you want to be honest about things. You want to be as humble as you can be in these interactions. You want to put your best foot forward, but you want to be real. Sometimes it's good to show flaws. It's good to show that you're imperfect. Like, yeah, sometimes I struggled with pride in the past, or sometimes, when I was in a situation like that, I didn't do that well. But you praise the other person for the things that they do well, even if it's something that you don't. But you can use that as an opportunity to be transparent, and maybe they can even encourage you. All right. So our next level of friendship is close friendship. So just to recap, we've done acquaintance, which is like an introductory. You're asking basic introductory things. Casual friendship. It's basically the quick development of the acquaintance. You can quickly get into this because once you find those common interests and activities, you're going to probably get to a closer level of You're going to be able to get closer with a person and be able to share opinions. And so you're going to be a casual friend with this person when the topics are relevant, I guess. A close friendship or a fellowship, this starts to get into something that's a little bit deeper. So the way it breaks it down is it says a casual friendship involves oneness of soul, mind, will, and emotions, but a close friendship reflects oneness of spirit. So I love how this article breaks it down. Basically what it's saying is we can have many friends that are like, casual or acquaintances. And typically over the course of our life, we're going to have many people that are our acquaintances and like friends. We're going to have several acquaintances, people that we're just cordial with. And then some people who are casual friends where if the situation makes sense, we'll be able to interact with them. We found out enough about them to know, oh, this person is interested in Marvel movies. So when Marvel releases this movie, we can have some great conversations and we'll be like, we'll be able to really talk back and forth about our opinions about what they're going to do next. Or like when they release a trailer, we can watch the trailer together and go crazy. All right. When we're talking about close relationships, now we're taking it to a different level. So true fellowship requires that both people share the same life goals. So now what we're talking about is something that is more along the lines of like not covenant. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to go too close with it, but now you're starting to look at life goals, and there are some things that have to line up a little bit more for that relationship to go another level. And so for those of you interested in being in a relationship, this is where you're starting. A close friendship now is diving into where you're going to get to what most people call dating. But what this basically is saying is, so I love how it works here. The Lord instructs us to consider, observe fully one another, to provoke or incite unto love and good works. So the third level of friendship, it has the responsibility of helping the other person to grow, exhorting one another, like it says here in this article. So you're trying to boost one another up. So now you're talking about goals in life. You're talking about things that are really passionate to you, whether it be in ministry, whether it be as far as what God called you to do. And those things might come up as a casual friend, but now you both are talking from a perspective where you're going into deeper things. What shaped you to be who you are? You're talking, you're being more transparent. Let me be very clear. You're not getting into things you're not really getting into intimacy per se. There is a level of intimacy with this, but what you're really getting into now is you're talking about things that line up with your goals. And these type of friendships are directly things that will impact your ability to reach certain goals and to make certain achievements, because these people are going to have a direct impact on it because they're close enough to do so. Because the position that you would be in as a close friend now is one, you might give advice to this person, you may give encouragement, or you might be the one that deters them away from doing something that they were planning on doing. So you can be a hindrance. So I love how it says here, discuss specific goals in your life, identify potential hindrances to achieve those goals. So both together can do this. And this is, again, this can be done. This isn't just like man to woman. This can apply to, men and men, brothers and sisters, as far as friendships. But this is also really healthy for people who are interested in each other, who may be, considering getting into a relationship. And so now you're talking about goals. If you don't understand let me switch my angle real quick. If you don't understand the goals of the person that you are interested in, then it don't matter how cute they are. It don't matter how dope they are at something. It doesn't matter how much they align with your vain perspective of how the person you are with is supposed to look or be. It doesn't matter if their goals don't align. If you're called to ministry, if you're called, for me, for example, I felt God called me to pastor, and I felt that strongly. I know that what God revealed within me. And if the person I was with didn't want to be the wife of a pastor, then that wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. Right? The goals will be completely off. And so we would constantly butt heads. If that wasn't a desire of hers, or if there wasn't a level of her wanting to be a part of that, then that would create a huge conflict of interest, and it would really hinder the both of us in the long term. Whatever goals she may have had, the goals she may have had would have been derailed as a result. And I would never fully reach my potential. But what happens is when both understand each other's goals and there is a parallel in them, then you can exhort one another. And that's what I love. And the way it words it going forward is, fellowship is walking in the light. God is light, and in him is no darkness. If we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another. So obviously centering in the love of Christ, centering in his light and in what he has for us to do. And so your friendship should include investments in projects that will equip you to achieve your life goals. So let's be very clear. The first three levels of friendship that we talked about, acquaintance, casual, and close friendships, all are very intentional. First one, basic information, just it's almost like icebreaker type of things, just basic general questions. Then now you're talking about, when you're casual, common interests, activities, and concerns. And then we're talking about, when we're in the close friendship, goals. Now we're talking about things that are going to unite us, that can either unite us or that would divide us if we were to take our relationship to a whole nother place. Intimate friendships, this is the deepest level of friendship that you can get to. So an intimate friendship is based on a commitment to generously invest in one another's life with the goal of helping each other mature in godly character. This level of relationship now is taking someone to another level. This is helping somebody to achieve God's purpose for their life. Now, I think it's very important for me to take a step back and say the first two, acquaintance and casual friendships, they don't really have much bearing on your walk with God. They really won't be that much of a deterrent. There isn't too much of an emotional investment to where that person is going to cause you to backslide. It shouldn't. A close friendship now has the potential to cause you to fall off, or to, maybe slip up here and there, because they can be a distraction. If you allow somebody to be at a level 3, a close friendship that don't deserve it, that really should be at a level 1 or 2. This one right here is the make or break. Intimate friendship is a make or break. If you allow somebody to be an intimate friend with you, but they do not have a genuine interest in what God is doing in your life, the goals that you have set, and they are not contributing to your maturation as a Christian, if they have no bearing. Some people think the only contribution that they're supposed to have is, a sex partner. I can keep you out of sexual sin now, because if I get to a greater level of intimacy with you and we get married, now you can be right with God in this. If that's the best that a person can do, then they're not contributing really to your spiritual maturity, which that is the most vital thing for us in this walk with God, is having the fruit of the Spirit and getting to that place of spiritual maturity, which the Bible refers to often as being perfect in Him. Hey, y'all, I see some people up in here. I'm going to check out the chat in a moment, but if y'all could just take a moment to like this video real quick, just give it a thumbs up so we can keep the algorithm going. I appreciate y'all tuning in, and let me know if y'all have any questions. I'm gonna do a quick Q&A right after this. So let me quickly get through this. So the humility, honesty, and discretion are requirements for an intimate relationship. You can't have a relationship at this level without honesty, without some realness. You got to have some real talks, and it has to be one where both can receive from each other. You ever been in a relationship with a person, you couldn't correct them, or if you shared anything with them that they disagree with, it was like, oh my goodness, like that's the end of the relationship. Like, oh my goodness, you just broke that person's heart, and you didn't say nothing hardly. You just said, and sometimes you can speak negatively. A lot of times a relationship comes to a test. A relationship that hasn't went through these 4 levels in a thorough way, what ends up happening is the moment there's a conflict, it immediately puts the relationship on the line. You don't want to be in a relationship, or you don't want to have a friendship where the minute conflict arises, that's the end of it. Like if you were at a level 3 or 4 and the conflict arises, you should be able to work through it, because people are going to disagree. People are just going to disagree. We disagree with each other on many things. I disagree with my wife on things even to this day, but I agree with more than I disagree. Way more. And that's really all that matters, is we're connected in our goals in life and in ministry. And so at this level of intimate friendship, we're trying to help each other to be great. We're correcting one another, pointing out blind spots. We don't just point out character deficiencies, because people grow if you work with them in love. We grow in God's love and in His grace. And so when we exemplify that fruit of the Spirit, which is love, and show that unconditional love despite character deficiencies, we can help them. It says to discern their causes and suggest solutions, and use scriptures for keys to solutions. And at this point, it's about being faithful. So this type of relationship is what what I would consider marriage. You would see this in marriage, or as you approach marriage, you'll start to see this come out from the point where you're actually dating a person, you're in a relationship with them, and you go through this even through marriage. And so that intimate friendship is the highest level of friendship. And so close friendship, you're easing into a relationship. Intimate friendship is where you're in that relationship, or there may be some type of overlap in these regards. But at the end of the day, you have to get through all three of these phases. You have to master, and I won't say master, but you have to seamlessly flow in from acquaintance to casual friendship to close friendship to really get an intimate friendship. And this isn't centered on dating. Notice these things could all be said of any friendship that you have, any relationship that you have. Isn't that crazy? You can say this to a brotherhood. These all go hand in hand with any healthy relationship. But if we apply these principles to marriage, we stand a far greater chance of having stronger relationships that turn into marriages. And we also waste less time. Guess what? When I started applying these things, you know how many women I dated before I got married after applying these? 1. And you know who that 1 was? My wife, who currently is my wife right now. I'm married because I applied these things. I only have 1 wife, and I've only had 1 relationship since I started doing these things. Why? Because me and my wife were friends. We had no interest. We were friends with no ulterior motive. We became friends just being in the same church. We did music together. She joined a rap group I made. She was going to be the singer of it. And I'll talk about that shortly. We got into a relationship that led to marriage because of a genuine friendship that we didn't even know would transpire into that. We didn't have interest for each other, but we weren't like attracted to each other like that. but attraction developed through friendship. And here is the powerful thing: through close friendships, when we get to the level of close friendship, attraction starts to develop when we understand the person, what God is lining up for this person and how it aligns with us. We start to get to that place when we realize that fellowship is developed and that it reflects that oneness of spirit. We start to feel a oneness within us. And as a lot of times when our life goes and what God is calling us to do, when they line up with another person, they then become suitable for what God is doing, and they are suitable for us in our lives. And we start to see how these commonalities will really work well for us to be together. And then there's an attraction, and then there's just a natural affection that starts to build. And so those are my thoughts on friendship. This is why I promote friendship over dating. I'm not saying don't date. I'm saying practice this versus just trying to get with the cutest girl or the cutest guy. Practice this over all of that, and make sure that you counsel people to do this. And I'll make sure I link this up in the description so that you can have this. But this is an older article, but I still think it really works well. I think a lot of these principles are very effective, and it has a lot, I mean, my goodness, it has a lot of good verses here. Iron sharpeneth iron, talks about other good principles of friendship. So make sure y'all check it out and let me know what y'all think about it in the chat and in the comments.
I work my way to the top, ayy. I cannot fit in the middle, ayy. I cannot fit in the middle, ayy. I cannot fit in the middle. I work my way to the top, ayy.